let's get started. My name is Alex Cochran, and my call sign's KB4LX. And I live out at Colonial Country Club here in Fort Myers, and then I have a home in Tennessee, and I spend about half my time up there near Nashville. And here I'm in an HOA, and you know how those are. Up in Tennessee, I can put up anything I want. So I got my station up there, and so I operate remotely. I got into remote operating about, I guess about 7 or 8 years ago, and it's been an evolution ever since. I always keep working on it. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of give you a high-level view of what remote operating is all about now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to first of all start out with a little bit of level set on, you know, what things you got to think about when you operate remotely, and then I'll talk a little bit about network architecture, computer network architecture, as it relates to connecting radios. And actually, operating remotely is more about computer networks than it is radios. For me, I kind of like that aspect a little bit better because I'm an IT person. My career was information technology. I worked for UPS. I was software engineering manager for UPS. And so when I finally didn't have to worry about you know, systems that manage package flows and lookups, and thank goodness. And so my love is programming. Ever since college, I just have loved programming, but when I worked at UPS and I was manager of software engineering, I couldn't do any programming, so except whatever I did at home. So when I finally retired, and I had a long absence from ham radio over those years, and so I got back into it, and I was pretty blown away with what the radios can do these days. And I said, "Oh man, I could hook a computer up to this rascal," and so off I went. So here we are. So the other thing is, as I said, I got a station up in Tennessee that I operate remotely, and these days, when I first started in ham radio, I liked all the DX stuff and the, you know, big tower with the beams and all that. But now I'm into nets, emergency nets and things like that on HF. And so I'm involved with the Tennessee phone net. I manage the evening session. So I have to, I keep a roster, I develop that, and I recruit net control operators and train them and do all that stuff. And then when I'm down here in Florida, and I also do net control myself, so when I'm down here in Florida, I got to do net control. And it's kind of hard to do if you try to set up a station down here and call a net in Tennessee on 75 meters. So my station, I operate remotely. It sits right in the middle of the state, and it does pretty good. So I say I've got a station with a real long mic cord. so that's basically it, and that's my background. So we'll get started here. And I promise you there's not going to be many text charts like this. It'll be mostly pictures. And can everybody see that okay? So just a little bit of level set, some of the things that you got to think about when you do remote operating. And there, you know, most of them are pretty intuitively obvious, but you know, you got to control your radio, switching bands, changing frequencies, changing modes. We got FT8 back here, and we got sideband and various things, so you got to be able to handle that. Setting filters, you know, not an absolute must, but it's pretty good if band conditions are not too good on HF. Audio in and out. You know, that's an interesting thing. That's basically voice over IP. And just about all phones work that way now these days. So if you got, you know, your cell phone, you know, when you're talking into it, you got analog coming out your mouth. And so the phone has to convert that into digital, put it into packets, send it out to the tower, et cetera, et cetera. This works the same way. And that's voice over IP. And that works both ways. So, you know, what's coming off your radio through the internet and into your speaker or your headset goes through the conversion in a reverse way. So that's one part of it. And then push to talk, toggling between transmit and receive. Most of the software has, you know, they'll have a button on there, and you just push to talk, and it goes through and does some magic, and it usually works. Sometimes it can be a little finicky, but believe it or not, push to talk can present some interesting challenges. For me, it created a lot of challenges, because when I call the net, I mean, it's fast, bang, bang, bang. We do a roll call net, so we go through all 95 counties in the state of Tennessee. We have about, in the evening, on the evening net, we'll have 150 to 180 check-ins in a session. And, you know, it's just that foot pedal, bang, 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 bang. And so you got to have that push to talk toggling pretty fast. So that can present some challenges. Here's the key. You got to connect your radio to the internet. And of course, the reason for that is you got to convert from analog to digital and build IP packets, send them across the internet. And it will require a local computer of some sort. And we'll get into that in a minute to do those conversions. And then on the remote end, you will need some kind of computer. And in most cases, it's probably going to be a laptop, but it can be a phone, depending on what you're using. And that remote computer will have some kind of software on it that can talk to either the radio or the computer that's sitting in front of the radio that talks to the radio. And then switching control. You can go with just a couple of switches up to a lot of switches. But one of the easiest ways to do that is these home automation Wi-Fi switches. Get them at the Walmart, get them off of Amazon, wherever. You get an app that goes on your phone, and you can control the switches, you plug them in. So you plug the switch in a wall and plug your power supply into that switch, and then when you're remote, you can turn it on and off. So at least that. And then finally, electromagnetic pulse protection. I did not call it lightning protection. I don't think there really is such a thing. But if lightning strikes really close by, you need something to keep that energy out of your equipment, because you're not home, you're not there at the shack, you can't unplug it if a storm comes up, so you got to depend on something. And we got a fella here at the Hamfest. Let's see, N4ZZ, Dan, Paradan, and he's right out here, and I've got a couple of, I got a slide with a couple of his devices in there, but you go out there and look at them and handle them, but they really, really work well. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So any questions on the getting started part here? Okay.
What kind of internet connection do you need?
Pardon? Yeah, well, you know, just your regular internet service provider, ISP, whatever you get from them is probably going to be good enough. It doesn't require a lot of super duper high speed. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute. But what it does require is good responsiveness. because the killer in trying to operate remotely with ham radio is latency. And so you want to do anything and everything you can to avoid latency. So, you know, you might think, okay, well, you know, I got this internet service and we watch all these movies on 3 or 4 different TVs, and boy, my network must be fantastic. And it's probably pretty good, but you're not really dealing with latency. You know, what's happening is you tune into that channel, it starts streaming that video, and, you know, lots of times you'll see it kind of takes a little bit to really get going, and maybe sometimes it comes up and it's not clear picture, and then it clears up. What it's doing is building a buffer. And so you're watching off that buffer. And so, yeah, it's great. It's nice and smooth. But when you're on radio, bam, you got to go right out there, and there's no buffer. It's got to be fast. So, but, you know, most services these days, they work pretty good. And kind of comes down to configuring your networks. But I will say, since you asked that question, we're on that subject, I would highly recommend, and wherever you have a choice between Wi-Fi and an Ethernet cable, use the Ethernet cable. Much, much better. Okay, let's, I'm going to divide this into 2 types of radio systems that you can tie into the internet. One I refer to as a serial interface type, and the other one is a direct connect. The difference is in a serial interface, well, let me talk about this one first. The direct connect actually has a computer of sorts built into the radio. It can handle the conversion into, it can put digital data into packets. So it can do all that. Therefore, you do not need another computer. You can go straight into your router and out to the network, and that's pretty cool. This is an example only. There are many others, but that's an ICOM 7610. Now, the 7300 does not have that. So you have to have some kind of computer in front of the radio connected with a USB port, basically a serial port. And that computer will talk to the radio through the radio's application program interface, API. And it will do all the communications, working with the right controls, et cetera, handle all the voice, and put that into packets and then out onto your router and out to the internet. So those are the 2 types. That's really pretty much it. There are lots of variations on this, and I'm from here on I'm going to show you, all the slides are going to be examples, and they will have real equipment in them, and they will all be part of this architecture. I'm only showing you the half of the architecture that's getting your radio onto the internet. And then, of course, we got the other side. Yes?
What's the software that gets loaded on the computer to provide these?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. They're different examples. I'll get to that. But anyway, those are the 2 basic ones. And you might ask, well, you know, I got a this, that, or, you know, whatever radio. Can I hook it up? You know, if you go back to an old radio before we had all this digital stuff, I do know of a person that operates remotely with one of those radios. It can be done, but it's not really worth talking about. It's a lot more work than you'll find here with a lot less benefit. So, you know, so that's kind of where we are. Now, we'll get into some examples. So all these examples will fit that basic architecture that I just showed you. Now I'll go through 2 or 3, about 3 or 4 examples of the serial connection type. Now in this case, we're going to use an ICOM 7300 as an example, and that's going to interface into a computer, And this particular example is going to be a PC running Windows. And there will be a piece of software that runs on this computer, and I'm just going to stick with ICOM, and the software I'm using in this example is RSBA1 software from ICOM. So you can get that and load it up on this computer, connect that computer to the ICOM using USB, and you'll configure the ICOM software. And it has two modes. It has a server mode and a client mode, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So in this case, when you're going to operate it remotely, you would configure it to be server mode, because this computer is going to be handling all the communications. So the computer then connects to your router and takes all the work that does with the ICOM and puts it into packets and sends it out on the internet. And then over on the other side, wherever you may be, you will have some kind of, in this particular case, you will have a PC. This will be a Windows machine. It will also be running the same ICOM BS or RSBA1 software. A little slip of tongue there. Anyway, it will be running that software, and essentially what's happening here is this computer is talking to this computer, and so this is the user interface. This is you banging on your computer and getting it going. And then you're getting into this radio by way of this computer here. Now let's level set on a term here. I said this is a client, and this over here is a server. That is a basic architecture in the world of computer systems, and that's pretty much how everything today works. And yeah.
Software, is there other third-party software?
Yes, yes, I'll get to it. I'll get to it.
Another question, how's the latency on this? Can you do CW with it?
You know, that's a good question. CW is a challenge. Yeah. There are some solutions that say that they do CW, and I think maybe they do. I'm not a CW person, so I'm not a good one to talk about it. But the bottom line is you pretty much got to have a keyboard on the other end generating the CW. So you listen to the CW, you copy it, then you key it up on the keyboard. The computer can send it real nice. So, you know, it's a compromise. I mean, if you're like a super diehard, you like a straight key, you know, this is not going to work. So, but anyway, I want to talk about client server. Just to level set. Pretty much everything in the world of computers these days is client server, and I'll give you an example. If you're sitting at home, you got a laptop out, you got it in your lap or on your table, and you bring up a browser on your computer, and you're going in and you're doing Google searches and finding this website, that website, and you're looking or you're shopping or something, that's client server. The computer in your lap is the client computer. The server's up in the cloud or at the store or wherever it is that you're getting a service. That's a server. So basically what you want to do is turn your radio into a server. And so that's what we're doing here. So you turn your radio into a server, and then when you use a remote computer, and again, it can be, in certain cases, it can be a phone, it can be a tablet, or whatever. But usually it's a laptop or some kind of computer. So this fits the type that I call serial interface, where you need a computer sitting in front of your radio. Now, and here's a picture of what that software looks like. And I don't use it. It's $140 last time I checked from DX Engineering. And some people use it, and I guess it's okay. I loaded it up one time, and I kind of didn't like it. But
Is it 140 per computer? So you
no,
can buy two?
no. You get one, and then you put it on whatever you want.
Multiple instances.
Yeah, yeah. And you're going to have at least two.
That's right.
Now, you could feasibly have, one sitting in your shack at home, but if you got two places, and you got that loaded up and it's dedicated to your radio, then maybe you got another computer in your house in a more comfortable room, like next to your easy chair, and you just want to sit there and operate remotely and check into the net or whatever the case may be. And so that's cool, that works. And then you may have another house like in Florida, and you got another computer down there with the same software on that connects to the same PC. Anyway, all that stuff works. But the only thing about this one, well, there's a couple of things about it, but one is that it only runs on Windows. And I'll take this opportunity to say a few things about Windows. A lot of people are saying a lot of bad things about Windows these days, but I won't get into that part of it. I use, now I will eventually get down to showing you my station and talk about that, but I use a Mac. And I never was an Apple person, and I just wasn't. So, I kind of grew up in IT in the corporate world. We used PCs. And so anyway, but when I got into all this radio stuff, and I started out on a Windows machine remotely, and it just wouldn't quite cut it. Now, you got the one thing where stuff's popping up all the time, and that's a killer for radio. But even if you can go in and tweak and stop most of it, it still has other issues. But the biggest problem I found was the performance of the audio subsystem in Windows. It's just not good enough. It's okay for casual rag chewing, things like that, but trying to be net control operator on a fast net, it would not work. It would throw my timing. I just couldn't do it. I'm banging that foot switch, and I'm still hearing my receiver. And then it's just, and then I would I would talk and let up, and then it would have hang time, and it would leave tails on the other end that people could hear. It just didn't work. So I switched over to Mac, and they have a really, really good audio subsystem that works real well. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But that's one example. Here's another example. Same architecture, exact same architecture. But now we're replacing the computer with a Raspberry Pi, but a Raspberry Pi is a computer. It is Linux, but in this particular solution, you don't have to really be concerned about that one way or the other. And I will say, in this particular case, it's a black box, but it is running on Linux. You're right. And we got one user back there that's we talked a little earlier that is using this solution. This is Remote TX. And this one here is about as close as you're going to get to plug and play. And I would highly recommend this solution to anybody that is starting out in remote operating, and anybody that's kind of a casual user, has a lot of opportunity to fix something at home if you're not too far away. Although this one's pretty reliable. But it's a really good solution, and the
It solves the audio latency and
not a problem.
the key up, everything you just said, it's gone.
Yeah, this one really doesn't have a problem with that, but it's running on a Raspberry Pi, and so that is connected to your, in this case, the ICOM 7300, and it's, it's working with the API in the 7300. And so it's taking care of all the controls and all that kind of stuff, and turning it into your packets and putting it out here on the internet. And then over here, now this is one of the really, really nice things about this one. The client side runs on a browser. So anything you got that's got a browser in it, which is everything, you can use that as your client. So this tablet here, I could use that. My Mac over there, I could use that. And and a phone. You got a browser. And I do that. I love this solution. It works really good. I have it myself. I use it on a 7300 as a backup to my other system that we'll get to in a few minutes. But that's a really good solution. And let me say one more thing. This is a service. And so you'll see this extra little thing here, Remote TX website. Okay, the guy that built this whole system and basically the Raspberry Pi side. This is just a very minor thing, but you have to, since it's a service, you have to have an account, and it's like a monthly or annual fee, and it's really not bad, $70 a year. And so what he does at that website, he does at least two things. He keeps up with where the Raspberry Pi is in your house. So you need an external IP address to get to the Pi. So the Pi, I don't know, it's all proprietary inside. I've never seen the code or anything like that, but I can guess on how it works based on how I had to do things myself. But my guess is it's got a little function in there that does where am I, or what's my IP address, or something like that. So he'll get the assigned external IP address from the ISP, the Internet Service Provider. He knows that. He'll send it back to his website, puts it in there on your account on that table. Then when you want to use it, you log in. In my case, it's kb4lx.remotetext.net, and I will log in to this site right here. He looks me up in that table. He checks my credentials. Yep, he's paid up. Okay. Let's go look in the table. Okay, his IP address is over here in Clarksville, Tennessee, and I got the number, and there we go. And it takes care of all that. You don't have to deal with all that. Exactly. So that's pretty cool. Yes, it can, and this solves that problem. Because I know his software on that Raspberry Pi is having to keep up with that. I do that myself. I build my own applications for my station, and rather than get a fixed IP address or one of those no IP or all that, I don't do any of that. I've got a little program runs on a Linux box, and it goes out and does a query. And what is the external IP address? It picks that out, and it puts it in an email, and it sends it to me if it changes, only if it changes. So every once in a while, I'll get an email, but it's not really because it changed. It's because the electricity went off, and when it came back up, it didn't have what the old one was, so that's a change from nothing.
What about using it on a phone? Does the IP address change a lot on a phone?
Well, the phone is the client, so the IP address on the phone doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because you're initiating the connection.
Okay.
You only worry about the IP address at the server.
Okay.
He has that feature.
It's a good question.
He has that feature in there that will track the IP address. It does the IP checking.
Yeah, you're only worried about the IP address at the server, at the host. Because you can take your phone and you're going from here to there. So you just got to know where there is. That's all. And once the connection's established, then the other end knows where it's coming from, because you asking a question, you got to talk back. So yeah. So this one can change, and it does. The phone changes all the time. So I can log in one time and it works, and then I'm off for a few hours, and I go log in again. I got a different IP address here. But it doesn't matter because he made a new connection. So anyway, that's how that works. All good questions. And here's a picture of what software.
Is there any logging?
Logging?
Logging software, meaning to know who's actually making those connections.
Where would the logging be that you're asking about?
So I'm wondering, somebody trying to use it.
No.
I guess because you're going through that.
In remote software, the developer, he sees it,
Yeah.
he knows who's been,
Right, so that's where the.
I don't see, I have it, I don't see it, but he sees it.
Yeah. I would assume so. I mean, but, you know.
You know when you're on and when you're off. I shut mine down and I've contacted him and, you know, hey, it's not doing this, and they'll go, well, turn it on. You know, I can't help you until you turn it on. You go,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. He is very responsive.
Yes.
He's a good guy. He knows his stuff. And when I first saw this, I was so impressed with his design just from an IT standpoint. I thought, that is really cool. That is cool.
His little site, whatever it is the gatekeeper.
Yeah, but he's only, but once he makes that connection, he's pretty much out of there.
Right, but
Yeah.
if somebody else tries to make the connection, that's what I'm like.
Maybe.
There'll be updates too. He'll provide.
Right, he'll push up, he pushes updates down. This is a picture of the screen that he has that you can use with a 7300. It was pretty nice. He has another screen that's much more abbreviated, which is what I use on my phone, but if I'm at home and I want to use this one, where I have a big screen, I'll use this one here.
The scope display slows things down, doesn't it?
No,
Causes latency with audio and so forth.
no. If it did, it would be gone.
Yeah.
You can, you could actually, if you had a connection, that's a good question. On my phone, I do not use this one, and I keep it as simple as possible. For one reason, that really won't fit. But the other reason is it doesn't have, the graph in it and all that kind of stuff, the pan adapter. And, but yeah, that's a good question. And when you're operating remotely, most of the software you can turn those off if you need to. If you're, working through two ISPs, like for me, one in Tennessee, I'm on a fiber optic system up there, and the same thing down here, that's not a problem. But if I'm out driving up I-75 with my phone, no, I don't really care about the pan adapter. I can't watch it anyway. But good question. But anyway, I already mentioned it's $70 a year. There's the website, remotetx.net. And the guy's name's Marcus Gilson, AK7MG, and really, really good guy.
Does that include the box?
No, $70 for the service, and then the box, I think you could build your own, or you can just get one from Marcus, and in the end, the price is about the same, so it's best just to get it from Marcus. And what he'll give you is a Raspberry Pi 4B Plus, I think is what he's doing now, which is a good Pi.
What's the price?
$75.
In addition to that?
Yeah, one time.
One time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a good deal. $75 to get what you need to operate remotely. That's pretty much, you just need a little computer to stick in front of a radio, and there are others besides the 7300. And then your client you already got in your pocket. So,
And it gives you the spectrum scope.
if you got a 7300, you can get that.
$75 in addition to the $70 for the service.
Right.
So a little bit over $100 or something?
Yeah. Well, it'd be $145 the first year, and then $70 a year after that. Yeah. But I'm not selling things, so you can make your mind. Okay, here is another solution. Yeah.
It doesn't work with every radio.
No, it doesn't work with every radio.
Look at what radio
Yeah.
is actually supported.
Right. Right. You can go to his website and see. Now, he basically, as far as I understand right now, he's doing a lot of the ICOMs, most of the ICOMs that have a USB plug into them. And he's doing a lot of the Yazoo. Well, maybe not a lot, but he's doing a few of the Yazoo radios. And I think he just started doing that 710, what's that called? I don't know. I got it on my list here. We'll see a list in a minute. But anyway, here's another one that's, again, the same architecture, the one that requires a computer in the front. This radio here that I'm talking about is a Nikon 7100. And the solution I'm using for an example is a thing called Remote Rig. And it is a 2-box solution, 2 black boxes. All the software, everything is inside these boxes. And so this one here on the server side is doing the same thing that the computer sitting in front of the 7300 was doing in the other 2 examples. Same thing, functionally. So we got this box here. So you take your radio, your 7100, plug it into that box, set up the configurations, plug that into your router, goes through the internet, comes out on the router on the remote side, goes into an almost identical remote rig box configured as a client, and then into the head unit of the 7100. That's what I use for when I'm in Tennessee and I want to get into radio down here and get on the Southwest Florida traffic net, things like that. This is what I use, and it works really well.
So what I'm seeing here is you've got the head for the 7100 in one location.
Right.
And the radio in another location.
Right. Right. Now, exactly. Now, in my case, all of this stuff here is at my house here in Fort Myers. And all of this stuff up here is at my house in Tennessee. And I'm going through the internet. And the nice thing about this solution is there are pretty much no compromises. You know, anything you can do on that head unit when it's connected directly to the server, the radio, you can do it remotely. And so I kind of showed this little faint line here to represent, you know, that you can, when I come down here, I bring that head unit and I basically unplug this, and then I plug that head unit, this head unit, directly into this box, and it's the same thing.
So does that product require a subscription?
No, it's about $500. And there's a company in Europe that makes them, and it's a really, really good product. Oh, the question was, is this a subscription? It is not. It's a hardware solution. It's $500 for the 2 boxes. Last time I checked, which is a long time ago. Yeah, well, that's a good point. True. So I don't know what it is now. But anyway, that's a good one. Okay, now we're going to switch gears, and this is the direct connect type. So in this case now, we're back to using a 7610 as an example. And the 7610 has a processor built into it that can handle packets. So it's got a little plug in the back for an Ethernet cable, and you just plug in your Ethernet cable and you connect it directly to your router. That's it, no computer in between. And the nice thing about that is, well, I'll talk about that in a minute, but that connects you to the internet. Then out on the remote end, you got a router, And again, we're using the RSBA1 software, so it's going to be a PC. And so now you only have one copy of that software, and that's on the client side. And so it is going from your PC remotely through the internet and into the radio, and that application program interface is making the entire trip. So it's going straight from client computer into the radio. And that's really nice. And I don't use that one. I use one that's for flex same architecture.
Is it just better because there's fewer things to go wrong? You've eliminated some of the... Or what makes it better?
Well, that's one thing. It is simpler. Another thing, I'd say the main thing about it is you don't have another computer to have to configure to get set up and make it working right and get it to connect to the other computer properly. I mean, you can make the other architecture work just fine, and I do that. It works fine. But it's more trouble to set up generally. But this is really pretty simple. And but here's another advantage. And that is that you see I got this little line going from here to here. You can, you can be on a trip and have this plugged in and go through the internet. You bring this PC home with you and you get home, and then you just plug that PC right into your router and you can operate your 7610 from any room in the house. Or you can use Wi-Fi, but I'd recommend never use Wi-Fi if you can get away with it. I'd use it, I do, I admit it. But not if I'm doing something like trying to call the net. Oh, I won't do it. But anyway, that works pretty good. And just another show of what the software looks like. We already saw that. Now, we'll talk about some alternatives. This is a piece of software. It's called VFView remote software, and it works with the ICOM radios. It'll work with the 7610. It'll work with all the ICOM radios that can work with that RSBA1. So it's a substitute. Nice thing about it, it's open source software, so it's free. And the other nice thing about it is it literally runs on anything. Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. And I really, really like the Linux part. Thing about Linux is it is so clean, so simple, and they finally are getting to the point where it's fairly usable by most people. Now, I've pretty much dumped Windows, lots of reasons. But I just quit using it. I still have it, and I use it every once in a while when I have to. But if I don't have to, I don't use it. And so mostly I use a Mac. But then when I'm doing development, software development, things like that, I use a Linux. And I find myself using it more and more on some of the things I would have otherwise used the Mac on, and I've got the Linux, and it's pretty nice. So they're making a lot of the user interfaces pretty good, and then the software installations are clean and simple, and it works pretty good. But it's not to the commercial level that Windows and Mac are, in that you will find little glitches here and there. And one of the things that I've done, I took an old MacBook Air, and it had long since got to the point where you couldn't update it with any new Mac software, and it was kind of okay, but then the software that you loaded onto it, sometimes it would need the latest one and you couldn't load it and you couldn't even upgrade that. So, it just started getting useless. And so I decided, well, I think I can't use it really, so I'm going to dump that and put Linux on it. So I did. And boy, it just makes a beautiful machine. It's fast, it works good, And, you know, you can't beat a Mac display. And it's just beautiful, and I love it. But a few of the little key things are a little quirky and this and that, but that's okay. You get used to it. Mint. Yeah, it's a good one. Now I've got a lot of Linux servers that I use just to Ubuntu on those, because they're headless, just servers. So the nice thing, as I said, the nice thing about that, it runs pretty much on anything. And I know a couple of guys that check into my net, and they use this and they love it. And you know, they didn't have any trouble setting it up. Here's another alternative. This guy, another Marcus. This is Marcus Roshkosh, and I keep wanting to say Roshkosh by gosh. But anyway, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly or not. But anyway, he's a German, and he has a software. He first started developing software for the Flex, and I have his software for Flex, and it really, really works well. So if I got a 7610, which I've thought about, but I hadn't done it, I might not, I don't know. I got too much stuff to do. But anyway, if I did, this is what I would get. His software is really good. And so he's got a solution for the 7610 operating on this particular architecture. And so I would highly recommend that. And lastly, the Flex. This is what I use. And as you notice, this looks pretty much like the 7610 solution. You know, from a computer standpoint, an architecture standpoint, it's the same thing. And so, you know, you got a piece of software that you run out here on a client, and then you've got your radio as a server, and it works. So not much more to say about that, because I've already kind of discussed how that works. Any questions so far?
You said you have a Flex. What do you do with your Flex? Do you do AM?
Well, I hate to admit it, but about the only thing I do is the Tennessee phone net on 3980. That's about all I do. So I check into the morning net every morning. I check into the evening net every evening. I'm always there to monitor the evening net because I'm the evening net manager, and it has to happen. So, and then I do net control for morning and evening on Wednesday, and that's about it. And then every once in a while, I might be out and about somewhere, and Jennifer saw me do that. She was doing POTA, and I was standing there. I said, well, let me give you a contact from Tennessee. I was going punch, 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 fired up my Flex, and I called you, and that was kind of cool. No, and I just don't do much except the net, and that keeps me pretty busy. But anyway, there is that. And this is a picture of the software. This is Marcus Roshkosh software for Flex. This is the, I should have taken a better picture. This was the middle of the day on 75 meters. There's nothing to see. But anyway, here's, this is the waterfall and spectrograph, all that kind of stuff. Over here are the controls, all the stuff you'd want to control, your filters, your volumes, your RF gain, and all that kind of stuff is all over here. And I really have come to like operating off a computer because I like to, if I'm not calling the net and I'm just in there, I like to kick back, prop my feet up, take my mouse and run around, do anything I want. I don't have to get up and grab a hold of a knob or whatever. So anyway, that works pretty good. And this stuff down here was just kind of riding along with my snapshot. That's my own software that I developed. And here we're looking at, well, I got three sections here. Kind of hard to see there, but this is, this part here is the control for turning things on and off and seeing what the status is of everything. So when I get ready to turn my equipment on, I push that one button right there. It goes through a sequence of turning everything on. And then I come over here, I'll be using the KPA 1500 amp. I hit that button and all that comes on, and my computer starts talking to the Elecraft amplifier. And then over here, since I'm net oriented, I don't think to ID, so I throw flashing lights out there every 10 minutes and, oh yeah, this is KB4LX calling the Wednesday evening session of the Tennessee Phone Deck. Continuing roll call with next county. So, and then I keep a little timer down here, and I got an elapsed time, and so when I get done with the net and close the net, and I got my time, and so anyway. So that's all software that's running on a Linux box, and I use a product called Node-RED to do my development. Anybody ever heard of Node-RED? One over there. Great tool. It's built by IBM way back when. Oh, you don't use it. Okay. Well, it is good. It's good. And it's open source, so it's free. And but anyway, I pretty much run all my servers, do my development with that. And so that is most of it. I'm going to show you my station here in a minute. But I just got a partial list of radios, and we got the direct connect side on the left and the serial connection side on the right. So there's some radios, several of the ICOMs, all the Flex 6000 and 8000 series. I don't know anything about the Kenwoods, but there is one that can do direct connect. Elecraft K4, I looked at that at Hamfest and I talked to those guys. They got beautiful radios, and they got a beautiful, beautiful remote set up with one radio that does RF and another one that just does internet to the other one that does the RF. It's really, really nice. But then, you know, I started asking them questions about, you know, getting in from software and stuff like that, because you may not have both those, you know, the radio. This is like a stationary solution, 2 houses. Radio in one house connected to antennas and amplifiers and all that. And then the other box that looks just like the radio but doesn't do anything except talk through the internet to the other radio. So it's a 2 stationary location. You're out in a car or somewhere or in a hotel room. Now how do you get to the radio? Well, they're working on it. And I thought, oh my goodness, you know, they just don't have a lot of flexibility. It's beautiful stuff, but they did, the last time I saw them in Huntsville last year, they've got Marcus Roshkosh working on software for theirs. It's not quite there yet, and the guy was telling me, well, my engineer left, and, you know, I said, and you live in California, and okay, I don't care. So, anyway, I had that conversation. Then on the serial side, a lot of radios, and this is one I was trying to think of a minute ago. The FT710 is supposed to be super duper radio with great receive, and he just, the other Marcus, just got that working. I have a request to help somebody install that. I'm anxious to do it just to see what it's like and see what issues there may be. But it should be pretty good. But I'm sure there's more, but that's what I found about a year ago, and so the list hadn't grown much.
The 9700 also has the...
Yes. The VHF, UHF, that looks like 7300. Is that the one? Yeah, right. Okay. Right.
You need that software.
Oh, okay.
The ICOM, whatever you had it up there.
Yeah, I don't know. You say it, what do you?
The ICOM software,
Yeah.
that's what they recommend.
Oh, that's what they recommend?
I mean,
Well, of course, that's ICOM. Yeah. Let's see, Yazoo, I don't know a whole lot about them, but in looking at a couple of solutions for other people, I see where they've got some external unit you plug into the Yazoo and you can connect it, and doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know. But I think Mark has figured out a way to go straight into the USB port on that newest Yazoo and skip all that other junk. All it's doing, it's trying to do that computer interface. And, you know, if you got other ways of doing it, it's probably better. So anyway, and we pretty much hit almost all the software. I've shown you examples. The only thing I've added here is Ham Radio Deluxe. Anybody ever use Ham Radio Deluxe? Yeah. I used it once a long time ago, and it was okay, but I don't use it. I think a lot of these other solutions are better. And I guess it's partly me, my philosophy being an IT person. I kind of like to see solutions that are directed to a specific job. And Ham Radio Deluxe seems like it tries to do everything for everybody, and so it's kind of like Windows like that, and it's got a lot of baggage it drags around with it. And I don't know, I just don't like it, but I'd say it works pretty good, yes. Right, right. And when I used it, it was that way. It took me a while to get it working, and then I said, I don't like this. Anyway, there are better solutions. So now we'll get into my station. But before I do, any more questions about what we've gone through so far?
If you're going to have a remote station, let's say in South Carolina, and one in Wisconsin, and one in Texas, do you need separate units for every one of those places, or do you do it all for one? Yeah, separate radio. Yeah, different radio. I have a radio set up in every one of my kids' house,
Okay.
and I want to control it from Florida.
Yeah, you would need, basically you're turning, if you got three, you're going to have three different hosts, and each one of those would have to have its own setup. Now you could use the same client to get to the different ones, the same client computer here in Florida, with, you know, different connections to the different stations. But yeah, you could do that.
Would I need different software for each one then?
It just depends on what the setup is. What are the radios?
Oh, 7100, 7300, like the Yaesu 991 or something like that.
Yeah, you would have to set up a solution. Most of the work would be done at the radio end, and it would be somewhat radio dependent, as we've shown here. But the 7100 and the 7300 would be pretty close to the same thing.
I don't know nothing about this at all, so my question is, but if I'm sitting here, how do I call?
Okay,
How do I call one? And then
okay,
go to the other one, or I want to go to the other one? Or if I got three
Okay.
computers set up, can I call all three at the same time?
gotcha. No, you can't do three at the same. Well, you could, but you'd have to have three different client computers.
That's what I'm saying.
You could do that. Yeah, but they're totally separate. There's no mixing. But let's take, for example, to answer your question, let's take that 7100 and the 7300. 7100 in one place, where would that be? South Carolina. 7100 South Carolina, 7300 in Milwaukee. Okay. So you would set those up individually, and you could use that remote TX for that because both those two radios are supported. So you get two Raspberry Pis, one for South Carolina, one for Milwaukee. You would set up two accounts, one for each one of those. Yes, you would need a separate account in that particular case, and get all that set up, get it working, and then back at the here in Florida, you got one computer, And if you want to use the one in South Carolina, you would log on to southcarolina.remotetx dot whatever, I forgot, net. And if you wanted to use the one in Milwaukee, you would log on to milwaukee.remotetx, different accounts. And then, but the software would be pretty much the same on the client end. Now the other radio that's a Yazoo, I'm not sure, maybe different software on the client in addition. And so, but hopefully, does that pretty well cover your question? Okay.
Are you able to run the packet software through the system, or is that too many packets?
I don't know too much about packet software. Could you be a little more specific?
I'm talking about WSJTX.
Okay, okay. I think you can do that okay. Now, that's one that's based on, is it kind of like FTA, where it's got timers?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should work, because I've done that before. And I was sitting in a doctor's office in Nashville with a laptop tied into my radio in Clarksville, 50 miles away, working FTA, had a QSO with a guy in Indonesia. So, yes, it'll work. You might have to do a lot of thinking and figuring, but it'll work. Yeah.
It's going to be very time dependent, though. You're going to have to make sure all the clocks are.
Yeah, you do. And you got to make sure you don't have much latency, too, because you got that additional
And
thing.
there's software that'll help you program your clock, and I forget what it's called, but you need to get that software. You
Right.
don't try to do it yourself.
Right. Well, the same would apply whether you're working at home. If you know how to do it at home, you would know how to do it remotely. Yeah. Okay. Did I have another question back here somewhere? Over here?
Describe this, can you talk about power control? You're gonna have
Yeah.
somebody in standby like the Raspberry Pi, and then bring everybody else up as you switch them on.
Yeah. I'll probably cover that when I go through talking about my station. But to give you a simple question, you're talking about switching stuff on and off?
Yeah.
Like power supply?
Well, everything that you show there, the power supply, the radios.
Well, yeah, it kind of depends on how you got it set up and what you have to do to turn the radio on. Let me think, most radios you can turn on by syncing either putting 12 volts to a RCA jack or syncing it, shorting it out or whatever. Or some of them are through auxiliary jack, or they're different. And you just got to figure out how that works and then configure a remote switch to make that work. Now, one of the best remote switches, super duper simple, is a home automation switch where you get them at the Walmart, you can get them off Amazon, you plug it in the wall, you get your phone out, you configure it, you got an account with whoever it may be. I use some TP-Links, so you download the TP-Link application, go in, set it up, make the switch work. Then you can turn the switch on and off with your phone. Once you got a switch you can turn on and off, then you can run it direct. For example, a power supply, you can leave your power supply switched on, plug it in, and then you could switch it on and off with that switch in the wall. That one's simple. Now, if you got some other kind of thing where you're needing to short out an RCA jack on the back of a radio to make it come on, you'll have to go another step and maybe get a 120 volt relay that's got a 120 volt coil on it. Plug that into your Wi-Fi switch, then the other side of that into your RCA jack, and just switch it on and off. So it'll, you got to just figure out what you got to do. And
I'm also thinking that you had all the IP connections shown there. I'm thinking there's a parallel set here of what you're describing, the home automation. Okay, let there be power supply. Because you do want control. I'm
Right.
thinking as a licensee, don't we, aren't we required to have ultimate control? So
Yes.
if it's going haywire, you've got to be able to remotely turn it off.
Yes, and I have actually done that a couple of times. And, you know, I had some switch bands, and I had some RF get into one of the TTL circuits, you know, the digital stuff that's outside of everything. And it actually made a relay chatter because it couldn't figure out what the voltage was, and then it welded itself together, and it was in transmit. And I did. I had to go in there and just kill it at the power supply, and gone, you know. So yes, you're right. You do have to be able to do that. Now, I'm going to just show you my radio and how I operate. But before I do that, there's a lot of stuff here, and if you're just going to set up a fun remote operation, a casual, you don't have to do nearly as much of this stuff. You can do it with just some bare bones equipment. The remote TX, super simple, Raspberry Pi sitting in front of an ICOM radio, or in some cases a Yazoo. And maybe a couple of Wi-Fi switches you can get at the Walmart, switch things on and off. That's pretty much it. That's all you need. We'll talk about antenna stuff too in a minute. But anyway, this is my station here. And what I've got is two parallel remote stations. One is the primary and the other is a backup. And I have had to use the backup a couple of times when I was down here in Florida. Now, you know, if I'm down here for 2 or 3 months and my station is 850 miles from here, and I don't really have anybody that can go to the house and fix something, and even if they could, they couldn't fix it because it's, you know. So anyway, so I have to at least be able to switch to a different radio if something goes wrong with the one that I want to use. And sometimes something will go wrong, and then I have to be able to troubleshoot and analyze what the problem is remotely. So I have a lot of other stuff, a lot of duplication, a lot of backup, a lot of parallel switching and things like that. And a lot of network interrogation tools that I can use remotely to get into my router and my switches and things like that. Anyway, you don't have to do all that stuff, but, you know, since I'm here for a long time and I do net control and I'm also the manager of the net, I got to get on there every night. So anyway, just keep that in mind and don't think you got to do all this stuff. But here, I have one of my stations turned on. It's the flex, and so you'll see power supply here, and that's the other thing. They're duplicated from power supply to antenna, all the way through.
Double antennas.
Yes. So here is the power supply to the flex, going into the KPA 1500, which then goes out to the antenna, and that's one full system right there. The other one is this power supply, and that goes down here to the ICOM 7300, which then goes into the KPA 500 amp with the associated KAT 500 tuner, and then out to the antenna, separate antenna. So I can use either one of those two systems. And then I have a bunch of computers over here. This is a Windows 10 computer that I hardly ever use, but it's in the shack, and sometimes I do use it. It's handy for a couple of things. This one here is a Linux computer, and that's where I have all my development. This is what runs my station right here. So all that sequencing of turning things on and all that kind of stuff happens in here. This one here is another Linux server, and I was using that to host a VPN, open VPN. I also use VPN, so I don't have to punch a whole bunch of holes in my firewall to get in to run these things. I just use VPN. So I can use a VPN connection to get into my system in Tennessee. Then I can touch anything I want, and it's all secure and works real well. But I'm not using that now because I moved my VPN to the router, and I'm using a WireGuard VPN now. So that works pretty good. And the nice thing about that one is I was able to set it up with a peer-to-peer or point-to-point. So now it doesn't matter. If I'm here or Tennessee, it's all transparent. It looks like one big network. So I just use a different IP address to address whatever I need to. So anyway, then I've got a couple of Raspberry Pis over here. This one here runs Remote TX, we talked about, which is connected to, it's the front end to the 7300. Then this Raspberry Pi up here, I have my own code on that, and that's sort of my mobile version of the software that I've got on this box here. So the screens are smaller and threw out a lot of unnecessary things that I can do without to make it fit on my phone. And so anyway, I got all that. And then this one down here is just kind of a play around box. You know, if I break it, it's okay. I'll just put another reload Linux. So anyway, that's what my station looks like. This is behind in the back, and the heart of that is this little box right here, and that is a kind of a commercial grade control, switching control, what do they call those things? PLC, program logic controller, a part of one of those systems. But anyway, if you'll notice, there's an Ethernet cable right there. So that is connected to my LAN. And so I can send any command from any software that I've developed to that box to make it switch. And it's got 6 ports? 8 ports. It's an 8-port box. And so I can use that for switching on power supplies and amplifiers and things like that. So I won't go into a lot of detail with that. Then here are those home automation type plugs that you can get just about anywhere. And so whatever device you want to be able to turn on and off remotely, you just plug into this.
Those relay ports, static IP addresses,
Which ones?
the 8 relays.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, this one is the main one. This one I always use. This one is a backup.
Oh,
So if this one fails, I can use this one, and all I got to do in my software is change the IP address to go here. And so, yeah.
it must be static because you printed it on.
I did, yes. It is static. And they're all parallel switching connections, and their normal state is off.
Oh, so the bottom one, all the relays.
So he's just open and riding along. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for coming. And so this is another Raspberry Pi, and I have software that I developed on that one. That is my monitoring box. So, and I'll show you how it works in a bit. This one talks to that other Linux box, and it's basically monitoring the state of things. And I'll give you one example and just leave it at that. If I push a button on my computer, mouse click to turn on a power supply, how do I know it's on? Okay, So the way I know it's on is that I have these relays here that mostly are 12-volt coil relays. So I take a feed off the back of that power supply and run into one of those relays, and if it closes that relay, it comes down here in this computer and shorts out one of those general purpose I/O pins that I could read in software. And if I can read it and it's on, it's on. So, and there's lots of other ones that I do like that. So that's that. And there's some of my networking. I won't bore you with all that stuff. This one is the router. This one is a managed switch. And anyway, I'll be happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk about that stuff, but not here. Now, here's the electromagnetic pulse protection. And Dan, N1ZZ, he's got that stuff right out here. And this is right outside my shack. These are inputs. He can tell you all about. These are outputs. He can tell you how it works. And basically, when it's off, everything is grounded. And to turn it on, you feed 12 volts into it, and it flips the relays and runs the center conductor straight through, and the ground is the ground, the shield. And that's pretty much it. And then I've got ground here that runs out, and you can see it running up through here, and it goes over into an 8-foot grounding pole in the ground. And so far, so good. It's worked pretty good. This over here is for my VHF.
Hit with anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, would you be aware of it if there's something triggered in that?
Maybe.
Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. If I got a direct lightning hit, I would probably be very well aware of it, and I would probably have some melted stuff. And hopefully it all stayed out here and didn't get into my rig.
Would you go back to the fuse box, because this is from the antenna,
Yeah.
the electricity coming through.
Yeah.
Don't you have to put something there to have your whole house protected?
Oh, I don't really have anything over here. I don't think so. But you know, all this lightning and grounding stuff's kind of black magic. So I say, you know, whatever an individual's opinion is what it is. So, yeah, I believe in grounding and bonding. And the other thing is to have your leads as close to the same length as possible, because you can start getting some out of phase, and I don't know. I don't get it quite good at all. I'm an IT guy. I'm not an RF guy. So anyway, but I do take it seriously. Now, I'm going to give you a quick little demo of my station in action. It's recorded. I love to do live demos, but, you know, it's like those old shows they used to have when they had interviewed kids. You know, you never know what you're going to get. Animals and kids and radios, all in the same category. But this is a video clip. It was nearly a year ago. The context here is that one of our guys, John Hickman, he's really top-notch in traffic handling. He's an ex-Navy guy, radio guy. He does traffic handling. He gives seminars periodically. They've been quarterly. We're stretching them out. He's got one coming up here in February, and we do those after our evening net, and they last about an hour, 4 nights. And he does those. And so he wanted to do a sample, and he contacted me and he said, you know, I got to send my monthly report in, and let me do that over the air when I'm doing my traffic seminar. I said, okay, fine. So that's what we did. And this is it. Hopefully this will work.
I have an excellent opportunity here. I am going to pass a real piece of traffic that I need to pass.
Everybody hear that?
And it's unique. And I'm going to ask you, have a radiogram with you, and please copy this down, because I'm going to show you a little variation. This is what I call direct delivery traffic. This is the type of traffic that you will practice on a local repeater.
What's
that
meters
I
on the
really
ramp
encourage you
when
to
I
take
transmit?
advantage of, because it's your best avenue. So with that, I'm going to break here and call KB4LX. This is WW3B. Are you on frequency?
WW3B, this is KB4LX. Yes, sir, John, go ahead.
Roger, I got a piece of traffic for your station. You've got a good signal on my station. Ready, copy.
A good signal, and I am QRV.
Roger, please copy my 1154 routine. Whiskey 3 Bravo. Figures 1 3. Prospect. I spell Papa Romeo Oscar Sierra Papa Echo Charlie Tango Tennessee. February figures 1-8 going to your station Kilo Bravo 4 Lima X-ray. Break protect.
Go with text.
Evening net.
This is
Letter
HF, you
group,
never know what you're
Sierra
going to get.
Alpha Romeo 4. That's Foxtrot Oscar Romeo. February figures 1-5. Initial X-ray. Letter group Quebec November India. Figures 1-4-3. Letter group Kilo Quebec Tango Charlie. Figure 3. Letter group Quebec Tango Romeo.
These spectrographs are really handy for net control. If you want to send somebody off to handle some traffic,
3 Bravo.
you can see where there's open spots.
1-1-5-4. Nothing follows. I'll copy over.
Roger, you're number 1154. Thank you very much, John. WW3B, this is KB4LX. Back to that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you taking that traffic, Alex.
That's it. And question.
Wires going through the Tennessee station.
Well, I have to confess, it would look exactly like that. And that's exactly how I do it. But when I'm in Tennessee, I operate remote in my house. So all my equipment is downstairs. And so I've got a room that's nice and comfy, and I got a big, huge screen computer in there, and I operate up there within my LAN. The only difference is when I'm down here, I'm operating on this LAN going through the WAN to get in there, but it's the same. It's exactly the same. Yeah.
So what I was just watching, everybody was probably doing this, but so you were on your computer and your radio was someplace else.
Correct. Yes.
So, another question. That computer is on Wi-Fi or Ethernet?
Oh, it was on Ethernet.
Oh, you had it plugged in.
Oh, it's plugged in. Yeah. Oh, right here.
Did I hear you say that you have an amplifier on your radio?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you switching any 220?
Yes.
Those little things were 110.
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and I'll give you the solution. One of my amplifiers is a 500 watt, and I just left it on 110. And I switched that directly with one of those switches. I've never had any trouble with it. The big amp is 220. And what I did there, I got one of those big old hunkin' contactors with a 120 volt coil on it. And then over on the side, I got a 110, 120 circuit, and I put that little, one of those little Wi-Fi switches in there to switch the 120 to change the coil on that 220 contactor. It works fine. Yeah, they call that, what do they call that? Relay ladders. That was a term I stumbled across. I used to call it cascading relays, but I guess that's not. But the industry uses the term relay ladders, and so you have to use those, especially if you're coming out of a computer that won't run anything. You run some transistor that will run something a little heavier to switch 12 volts, that then runs another relay that switches 120. So.
I'm surprised that you cannot find one of those devices from Amazon that's rated to 220 or 240, because we're the only nation in the world that
Yeah, I know.
240.
You're right. Right.
I use a less expensive way to see if my equipment is on remotely. It's called the Wi-Fi camera, aimed directly at my equipment.
Right.
And I go on a camera and look at it, and if my power supply is lit and the radio is lit, it's working. Somebody on the other, maybe nobody's answering, but
Right.
the equipment's working, and that's about a $35 solution.
I have one of those too. That's a backup. I have at least 2 ways of doing almost everything. And about the only single point of failure I have is my internet coming into the house. My router and my whatever you call that box. They like to call them modems, but they're not. I don't think. But in this case, in my house, it's a fiber optic little box that connects into the router. Those 2 are single points of failure. And if I lose that, I'm screwed. I have to get on a plane.
UPS on the, we have in the Cape, we have a lot of off-ons.
Yeah.
And it drops the router.
Yeah.
And it has to reconnect and everything else.
Yeah.
So solution is put a uninterrupted power supply there.
Yeah.
And I have one there. I have one on my extender. So if I get one of those momentary things, it doesn't interfere with the router dropping.
Right. Well, I'm lucky I don't have too many of those things. And I've thought about doing that before, and maybe even a backup power supply, a big one. But I just, I don't know. I don't think it's worth it. And it caught up with me about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was net control, and I was, I don't know, a few counties in, and then bam, my electricity went out. I was dead. And no, I remember where it was. I had gotten all the way through Tennessee. We do out of state too, and I was in Arkansas. Did Alabama, did Arkansas. In the middle of Arkansas, electricity went. I was at home, so I knew, I'm screwed. So I do my log on the laptop, that one right over there. I grabbed that laptop because, electricity or not, it's not going off. I went traipsing downstairs in front of my radio, set it down. By that time, the electricity had come back on. I switched on my 7300 and my KPA 500 amp and got it all going, put my headset on, and my backup was just finishing Arkansas. And so, I jumped back in, KB4LX. Yeah, I said, I'm back. And the guy's name's Sky. I said, how far did you get, Sky? Well, I just got Arkansas. I said, well, I'll get those stuff from you in a minute. Thank you. Went on. So, anyway, but that's the only one time in I guess 8 years I've been calling the net that I've lost electricity in the middle of the net. One time I was down here and we lost electricity on half the street, and I was concocting these ways of going to the neighbor's house and setting up a little remote, and it came back on at the last minute. I didn't have to.
My whole land was on UPS.
Yeah.
But I
So.
found out though, sometimes when the power goes out, the internet didn't go out.
Yeah.
So if you can, if
If you can hold it up, it'll stay there. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Everything's gone, but they're separate systems.
Right. Exactly.
Is there a checklist that says, okay, I want to start this right now? What do I need? Is there something, is there a checklist on this? Do you have that, or is it in your program?
No, I don't have a checklist per se. You can. You're more than welcome to. I'm a member of the club, and my phone number's out there somewhere. So, and you can look me up on. I'll say this: you can look me up on QRZ, KB4LX, and you can send me an email because my email's in there, and give me your phone number. I'll call you. No problem. But what kind of radio are you using?
I've got a couple 7300s. I got a 7100. I got a Yaesu
Okay.
991.
Okay.
I got a bigger
That would have
Yaesu,
worked
I'm not
too.
sure.
Okay, all of those that you mentioned by name will work with Remote TX, and I would really, really recommend that you go that route because it's the easiest. And if you go to
7300 doesn't work with remote.
yes, it does. Absolutely. If you go to his website, remotetx.net.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking something else.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. If you go to his website, he'll show you everything it works with. He's got some checklists. And nice thing about it, he'll give you a 30-day free trial. And really, I think the best way to do it, if you got, some people, they've got Raspberry Pis laying around because they do that kind of stuff too. And you can download his software and load it up and then set yourself up an account, which he'll give you for free for 30 days. And then he will give you the credentials you need to log in, and then it'll just work.
I don't know nothing about Raspberry Pi.
Okay. Okay.
But I did, Steve Smith was with us. He talked me into buying a Raspberry Pi. It's in a keyboard. I think it's a 105 or something like that. Will that work?
You could probably make it work. I can't tell you off the top of my head what you would have to do, but I would not use that because Raspberry Pis are generally pretty cheap. But what I would,
This guy's Raspberry Pi with the software.
It's all configured.
yeah,
It's all done.
yeah. I was just going to say, I would highly recommend that you just go on there and put an order in for a Raspberry Pi, and he'll have it configured for you and everything you need to do.
And I would have to do that for every radio that I'm going to use.
Right. Every host, yes.
If I was going to use the 7100, I'd have to buy one for the 7100. If I was going to use the 7300, I'd buy one for the 7300. If the Yaesu took it, I'd have to buy one for the Yaesu.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little trick. I have two of those.
Just keep it very, very simple.
Okay.
3 of them. Okay, I got it.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Well, you're going to have to buy the 3 anyway. But I have one account, and I have 2 radios remoted. One's in Tennessee and one is in Florida. I don't use both of them at the same time. So what I do, the one I'm not using, I use one of those Wi-Fi switches to go in and kill the power supply to, well, that's not a good way to do it. I shouldn't be saying it that way. I go in through the software and I turn off the Raspberry Pi. But you will then need the switch to turn it back on. So you turn it off, make it cold, and that way that central station in the cloud doesn't know that it's there. But it does know the other one's there, and it's tied to your account. If I want to use the other one, I turn this one off and that one on, and it's only got one connected. So that works. But you don't save anything doing it that way. You just...
I do 99% I do FT8. 99% of my work is FT8. I don't go out of voice.
Okay, well, that would work for you.
Okay, now, so what I'm thinking is, I'm doing FT8 here with my antenna here. You know what? I don't like what the reception I'm getting
Probably. On FT8,
Just be changing my location with the FDA with the log.
yeah, I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing I have done in the past. Operating from here in Florida. Actually, I've done it in Tennessee too, but a few times I've been operating here in Florida and I've been net control. So I'm calling it a Tennessee phone net. It's at night, and it was back several years ago when we were in the bottom of the sunspot cycles, and the band would go long. You know, we're on 75 meters. The band goes long. I'm sitting at my station is in the middle of Tennessee. Now the donut hole is about 200 miles wide. I can't hear anybody in Tennessee. I just can't. But I got a good strong transmitter, so they can usually hear me. But the 100-watt guys, they're not coming through. So I would go to an SDR, you know, these SDR stations that people got set up. There's one up in Pennsylvania I liked. It's always there. It was good. It received well. I would take my phone or my iPad or something, and I would go to that SDR, plug in a little earbud, stick that in one ear, and have my headset up here, and turn the volume over to kill this one and hear this one. Now I've got Pennsylvania here, Tennessee over here, and I'm transmitting out of Tennessee. Now you got to get used to it because there's more latency in the SDR. Plus, and this is the killer, you can hear yourself. But you got duplex. So if you double with somebody, hey, no problem. That works well on HF. You don't have this FM thing going on. So I have done that in the past, and it works pretty good. So I'm hearing everybody in Tennessee through a receiver in Pennsylvania and transmitting out of Tennessee, and I'm sitting in Florida. So, yeah, you can do all that stuff. Are we running out of time on there? I guess we went way past. Anyway, that's it. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it.